Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Green Factor, a show where we talk about green design and the business of sustainability. Today, we'll be talking about successful entrepreneur mindset. I think like few years ago, I've started to see this company, Proficio. I always see lah, certainly always see Proficio, but I don't know what they do. And few months before, I met Renuka and his team, and I found out a lot about what they do. And they work a lot with entrepreneurs in terms of development, coaching, structure, and system. And with more than 10,000, 1,000 company. So with that, I feel like um, based on her experience, she can share a little bit more in terms of what makes an entrepreneur great or so. So with that, let's welcome Renuka. Hi, Renuka.
Hi, Harriet. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming to the show. I think for the benefits of our viewers, can you share a little bit about your journey or what you guys are doing before we go into the topic of today's conversation?
Sure. So basically, I am the co-founder and CEO of Proficio, and Proficio basically specializes in training and coaching entrepreneurs. We actually started about 2008. My co-founder Doc Siva, which I think most people will know, and I thought that entrepreneurs basically have been given opportunities in Malaysia, but it doesn't mean that they automatically know what they need to do to actually grow their businesses. And that's why we advocated for coaching. And after a lot of lobbying, basically, we got through to the then Cradle CEO, passed away now, Encik Nazrin Hassan, and he believed in the same thesis that we did, which is entrepreneurs need coaches, they need support, and then you can really allow them to grow and thrive. um, 10 years, actually not 14 years on, as you said, we've been coaching and training more than 1,000 entrepreneurs from all walks of life. So whether they are first-time entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, whether they are brick and mortar, SME, micro, but primarily I would say it is technology-related entrepreneurs.
Awesome. So today we'll be talking a little bit in terms of these entrepreneurs' mindset and maybe the things that we do. And also by the end of the show, we also have a special session where we talk about shift. So I think maybe you can just give a little bit introduction in terms of shift, and then we go to the topic, and then maybe at the end we just recap a little bit.
Sure. So, Harith, Shift is a partnership that we formed with a company called Impact X from Australia. The founders of Shift basically they believe in innovations and technology that are going to change the world. I think especially now, a lot of us can see that more and more corporates, and whether it's in the news, ke apa, there's a lot of talk about ESG, and I think ESG is more towards the governance and processes and things like that. But what I see is more important is to have the mindset of sustainability. And when they approach Proficio to say, would we be the country partners to actually look for groundbreaking technologies or entrepreneurs that are going to help with social or environmental problems and help solve those problems for the world. I thought this was a fantastic opportunity, not just for us, but also for all of the entrepreneurs in Malaysia. Now, you may ask why I see this as a fantastic opportunity. Primarily because I think after having coached so many entrepreneurs all these years, the the ones that are closest to my heart are the ones that create impact. So it means that my purpose, my actions in helping them or coaching them becomes a lot more meaningful to me because of the type of work that they do. And if they are then can escalate the impact that they create, either in terms of taking their solution out to the market or to become better entrepreneurs and have better social impact, then that means that I've done a good job and I have a legacy as well. So it's a competition, and we can talk more about it later. But that's in essence what it is.
Okay. So going to the topic, when we talk about entrepreneurship, like you have a lot of experience working with a lot of us. So, what do you see the current state of Malaysian entrepreneur?
So I think, I want to actually go back to the first words that you used when you were promoting this, which is, entrepreneurs born or are they made? And I think that in Malaysia, the government has done a lot to kind of simulate or stimulate technology entrepreneurs. Of late, I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, or maybe even up to 5 years ago, there was this huge push in terms of digitalization. And so you saw a lot of micro entrepreneurs come up because the government was helping them to embrace technology, sell on social commerce platforms, etc., etc. So if you talk about the state of entrepreneurs, I think that we've got a very healthy mix of brick and mortar, technology, micro, and social enterprises. And all of this has been a push from the government. However, when I look at the entrepreneurs, and like I said, we've been doing this since 2008. I am not sure yet whether or not entrepreneurs are born or made, because you can teach entrepreneurship. You can coach them, you can help them, you can help them see sort of what they need to do. But ultimately, I do think there is a certain amount of DNA that's required for a successful entrepreneur. And I think that many Malaysians, you have to ask yourself what's driving you. And if what's driving you is innovation or money or survival, uh, that's kind of what makes a good entrepreneur. And I see now, especially, we all know post COVID, right? The separation between, I suppose, the good entrepreneurs and those that can't make it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad entrepreneurs. I think there's so many external factors that actually come into play.
Touching on one of your point about entrepreneurs, can anybody become entrepreneur?
I think the answer to that is a guarded yes. Anyone can become an entrepreneur, but whether or not they want to be successful at it comes back to what we talked about just now, which is what is their motivation. I think that if they start or want to become an entrepreneur because they see a problem that needs solving, or they see a gap that no one else is providing a solution for, then that drive will probably take them to develop a good product and then grow the business. But if you want to become an entrepreneur to make money, I would caution against it, because most entrepreneurs will tell you it's not just a tough journey, it's a lonely journey. And most of the time, the rewards you don't see until much, much later. So it really depends on the motivation.
Yeah, I think our culture, or I think this past few years, there's been always a focus on creating entrepreneurs. It has become something of a trend or in thing. So there were a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs, but like you say, a lot of them are not equipped with what it means by entrepreneur. We think that by being entrepreneurs we would work a 9 to 5, but they don't realize it's working 24/7. And,
Exactly.
and you think that you will have more free time, but actually you will have less. So there's a lot of thing or misconception that people think entrepreneurs are. But we don't want to go into that. But right now
Mm-hmm.
we want to go into what are the mindset that you see, like 1,000 entrepreneurs. That's a lot of people. So how do you see the good ones compared to the average one? I would say.
So I would say that good entrepreneurs that I have seen, it goes back to why they started. um, Many entrepreneurs that I have seen who have started work first or been in the industry, and they see a problem that, within their company. Let's say they were in a telco and they see a problem within the industry. They can actually be very observant about what are the solutions. Does it actually meet the requirements of a customer, etc., right? Those entrepreneurs I find very, very good entrepreneurs because they they have been immersed in a problem. They see the gap. They understand what will actually alleviate or provide a solution. And so the products that they build are, in a sense, market driven, meaning that the market tells you what they need, right? Entrepreneurs who are There are also entrepreneurs who basically build businesses that are so-called lifestyle businesses, meaning that they don't necessarily want to grow the business like macam until unicorn ke apa, but it can be decent living, make good revenues. There are people who want to pay for the product, and so they make decent income. And there's nothing wrong with it. I think the majority of the entrepreneurs actually fall within that bracket, and I think a lot of people call them SMEs because they are not high growth or they're not scalable in that sense, but they're lifestyle businesses. And I think that those businesses, we shouldn't discount them because they're not like, raising funds ke apa, right? These are the lifeblood really of true entrepreneurship, right? The businesses that are your mom and pops, your kedai runcit, they're all entrepreneurs. It's not to say that they're not. Now, entrepreneurs, I won't say necessarily in terms of mindset, but I think that entrepreneurs who start with the intention that you think that it's sexy, ke, I'm going to be the next unicorn, ke, and think that it's all about fundraising or it's all about the glamour. Uh, and I have come across quite a few of those, who think that, that's what entrepreneurship is about. Then you're not starting with the right premise. The premise that you start from is should be about building a product that solves a problem, making sure the product itself is an extraordinary product. The problem must be a big enough problem to solve. Then you are, have an opportunity to actually make good revenues or returns because people will pay for something. So in Proficio, we have what we say lah, right? Are you a Panadol business or are you a vitamin business, right? A Panadol business is someone goes to buy Panadol because they have a pain and Panadol solves that pain, right? And so there is a desire to spend money. Whereas a vitamin is good to have, tapi don't have pun okay lah, right? Because there are alternatives. So these are the kind of things that I suppose you need to start with that proper intention before you can decide, is this a good entrepreneur or not.
So there's a comment from Yuana. Thank you, Yuana, for tuning in. Yuana said, "I think humans are born to be entrepreneur. They can they, they can transaction for them self start from how is good for my health. So here was buy and sell, right? As long as they can choose, I think entrepreneur is running. Just think 5W and 1H they can run. So basically she's saying that a lot of us can be entrepreneur provided we have the tool, like for example like 5W and 1H. So my question would be like, what do you think some of the tools that these entrepreneur use aside from I don't know. I think the a lot of entrepreneurs have problem of managing things. So
Mm.
maybe what are some of the things that you see they how they work?
So If I can maybe not answer that head on, but take you through a journey of the entrepreneur again. So let's say just now what we talked about is you start with the right intention. You want to solve a problem. And if you want to solve a problem, then you have to determine who is your customer. So there is a market driven solution. Second thing is, what is the product? So we always have this terminology called MVP, which is minimal viable product. So you put a product out there, which is like a prototype, a proof of concept, and you take it out in the market and test it, and then see whether people like it, what they say about it, and good entrepreneurs kind of iterate. Okay, so I'm using the word that you use, which is tools, but these tools are actually more skills that need to be developed to understand whether or not you're going through that journey properly. Now, I bring up this so-called MVP and the need to test, right? Because it's very, very important. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that make assumptions about a problem that they see in the market because perhaps they were in the industry. But when they make those assumptions, they may have been right about the problem, but they don't really know whether the customer will pay for their solution. So that's why when you develop a solution, whatever that may be, you need to make sure you develop sikit dulu, and then you uh, go out to the market, test who's your potential customer, do they like it, if they don't like it, what they don't they like about it, if they like it, is there anything more that they want, and then you iterate your product. So good entrepreneurs, or these kinds of lessons that you're asking for, is they need to actually build slowly and always make sure that there is someone that's willing to pay for it, because it's solving their pain, because it's a Panadol for them, right? And the problem is that many entrepreneurs make these assumptions. They say, I see a problem, I know what the solution is, and then they build the product without testing and iterating. So by the time they spend all of their time and their money, and they probably put in quite a lot of money with development work, they go out to the market. Actually, it's not what the market wants, right? And this is where a lot of entrepreneurs get into these traps about, I spent so much time already, I've spent so much money already, and now the customer doesn't want this. I need to go and find money to kind of redevelop ke, redesign ke, do whatever, right? So that is a big problem. The other thing is that a lot of entrepreneurs are in love with their solution. I mean, they love the product so much that they become obsessed with making it perfect. Again, spending too much time and too much money and resources with perfection, because a lot of the times you find that what the market wants may actually only be 20 to 30% of this perfect solution. So that is why I think that these types of lessons in making sure that whatever it is you develop, or whatever it is you're selling, or whatever it is you have designed, is something that a customer wants and willing to pay for it. So
Mm.
those are very important lessons.
So, what I get from what you say is, one, they need to make sure that the product actually solve a problem and people
Yeah.
are willing to pay,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to study it in a way. You need to be lean,
Yes.
by minimizing your cost. Maybe you start with a pilot,
Yeah.
and then you get see the traction, and then you go from there. And you need to be agile and not be
Yes.
too,
Mm.
like you say, too in love with the product. Of course you love it, but you need to be smart about it, and if, let's say, it doesn't work, then you have to move on, right?
Yes. Yeah. So you have to be
So
nimble.
nimble, yeah, correct. And right now I think agile is the big thing, right?
Is the big word. Yes.
So I think that's a good indicator of what is happening right now and what is working with a lot of people. But if we talk about something in the future, for example, what
Mm.
do you see the future trend in terms of entrepreneurship would be?
So that is, one of the reasons why we're going to talk about shift later. Right? I see the future trends in being sustainability. So a lot of people think that it's only social enterprises that develop products or have solutions or provide some kind of a service um, for social and environmental good. But if you look at a lot of technology out there, and a lot of entrepreneurs, I think we need to be very mindful about how what we do, what we build, how we provide those services impact people, planet around us, right? And I think that that is important because we're seeing now, whether it's in the stock market, you'll see that a lot of fund managers are using ESG to determine which stocks that they buy. And that has sent a lot of listed companies scrambling to make sure that basically they are ESG compliant and they've got sustainability heads and all of those things. But it's not just for big companies. I think it's important, especially I think if you are an SME is going to find that as the as the sustainability or ESG trickles down into the market, they will find that if they are also not don't have a sustainable mindset and they're not thinking about how they develop their products and what they how they treat their workers, etc. The big companies are not going to buy from them. They're going to choose other vendors that actually have sustainability practices because whoever they purchase from impacts their own ESG. Kan? So that's for SMEs. So SMEs are going to have to do it at some point in time. But then you talk about the startups or the technology entrepreneurs. Now, I think that um, there is a class of investor which is called the impact investors, and they're looking at all of this type of technology that is going to solve the world's biggest problems, right? Climate tech, or how to help basically companies become carbon neutral. Those are the main issues that a lot of people are talking about now because as we approach, I know from the UN side it's the 2030 goal lah, but really this whole issue of climate and how it's affecting us has been around for a long time. But it's good to see that there's an urgency now. And so for entrepreneurs, I think who are looking at the future, if they're not entrepreneurs yet, look to these types of areas because that's where I think future trends are. Of course, you have, I'm biased lah towards the impact entrepreneurs, but of course, you have all the other IR 4.0, big data, and stuff like that as well. But you also, I think, need to incorporate within your DNA how to actually track your own impact, whether it's on social or environmental. Because these impact investors, at the moment, general investors and impact investors are separate. In the future, it will all be one. All investors will start looking at sustainability and impact. So it's something that we need to start doing now.
So what we are seeing a lot right now is the move or the push towards just operating in a linear model where we take material, we make stuff, and then we sell and end of story, to more of a circular approach to businesses. Like from us as well, we started our sustainable journey 10 years ago, and at that time it wasn't, there are people talking about it, but it's not really a big thing. But now everyone is talking about it, and
Yes.
we are seeing a lot of our clients, a lot of them are corporates, like you say, they look at all the things, other things you do, not just your product. Your
Yes.
who your worker, where you take the material, what you do after that. It's a different kind of way to do business. So that's why right now, before this, when we look at sustainability, I started with the fact that I want to save the environment. But now, after doing it for almost a decade, we are seeing it having a lot of business benefit. Like we have better margins for products, we have lower costs, talent acquisition, and all those things that is not related to the environment. So
Yep.
that's why these past few years we have been doing more activism. We want to get more entrepreneurs to be part of sustainability, to practice sustainable practices, and make sustainability a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
So that is what I'm seeing from my side, and we will gonna see more demand for this kind of products eventually,
Mm.
and so that brings us to shift. So why don't, in your own words, just share again what shift is and what will go into the shift program?
Okay. So basically, Shift is a regional competition targeting impact technology. They have four key areas: circular economy, they have sustainable cities, they're looking at reducing carbon, and of course, increase health. Right? So these are so called problems that um, we need to solve on a global level. And Shift decided that they would be a platform to find the best of the best and run it across the ultimate goal in the next 3 years basically is to run it across 30 cities across Asia Pac. This is the first year that it's going to be running. Um, the four cities that is, well, the four countries that it's going to be running at as a start is Malaysia, Indonesia, Australia, and China. And so, I'm very pleased that Malaysia is going to be at the start of this race. And we're the first ones also to launch. All the other countries have not launched yet. So the point is that you take it as in there is heats. Each country basically runs a local competition. The winners from the local competition all then go to the regional competition or the finals, which will be in Sydney in November. So, what we're looking at is by looking for the best and then elevating them to the finals, they will get access to the right type of impact investors, market access, partners, etc. But I want to stress something else, which is a lot of people join these competitions not necessarily to be the winners and to get that prize. It should not be about the prize. It should be about getting more visibility for your product or service or company. It should be about networking with the right type of people who could be your partners or could be your future staff, or it could be your market access into another country. So I think that impact entrepreneurs or impact technologies, they are new. And so a lot of these assistance that Shift can provide by providing a singular platform where you have all the technologies and the entrepreneurs kind of networking with each other is what I like about it. And then we can also benchmark across these 30 cities in 3 years' time to ensure that what we are developing here in Malaysia is actually going to be better. I think sometimes in Malaysia, we are not as aware of the type of technologies that are out there in the market. And so it's kind of I suppose, let's get out of the tempurung lah, right? We don't want to be the katak di bawah tempurung. So we should have a global view, and the only way you can do that is by having benchmarking. So the competition as a whole, there are prizes, but the objective really is to find the best impact technologies in these four areas that are going to help solve the world's biggest problems.
Awesome, awesome. And I think what what we have been doing these past few years, also looking for an international competition and all that to enter. Sometimes it's not about the winning thing. It's about
Yes,
what question do they ask. So when they
correct.
ask, and we see like, oh, so many things, and then like, oh, okay, we never thought about it based on the question. So you
Yes,
actually learn by just entering or like filling up the
the
form.
application. Yeah,
Yeah, so that's what we found is a good learning, and it helps us in terms of making, like you say, benchmarking. So you
yeah,
see, okay, these are the standards, these are what the world is looking into, and we should look into all that. In a way, it makes um, the decision making slightly easier because there's a guide,
yeah.
like because when you talk about sustainability or social cause and all that, it's very general, it's very big. So
Yes,
for us as well, when you look at sustainability, there's a lot of things that are considered sustainable or in the
Yes.
sustainability thing, like culture, company culture, mental health.
Yeah.
There's so many things. So, like for us, we feel that we need to have a framework, and we started off with UN. Then we see
Mm-hmm.
UN. Okay, SDG. So SDG 12. Okay, as we work on SDG 12, so we know SDG which part of the business requires certain things. So we
Mm-hmm.
look into that, and now as well we do SDG 1. So by having this framework there ready for
Mm-hmm.
us to use, I think
Mm-hmm.
we should take advantage of that. And I agree, like you said, there's a lot of things that are being done in Malaysia that we don't know. The technology, the people, same as sustainability. When we Google sustainability, there's always the case is always like in Western countries or something,
Yes.
not East Malaysia. But when I dig a little bit more into this, there's a lot of amazing people doing amazing things here in Malaysia, and that's why I decided to do the Green Factor show, is for us to have more local visibility of the people that doing work here, so
Doing the
that
good work.
yeah, so we see, we at least if someone would see, rather than seeing a Western, they can do it because they are developed those kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
This is like my neighbor. I mean, like in my vicinity, they also from KL or from Johor. So why cannot I do it? So we want
Yeah.
to create that conversation and that kind of shift. So
Yeah.
and we're also seeing a lot of social enterprise popping in, startup and also companies that is moving towards it. So I would say um, by joining shift, you actually bring yourself to a community of like-minded people, and by
Absolutely.
having like-minded people, you have more support, and also you can help excel in your business. So
Correct.
thank you, Renuka, for your insight today and introduction of shift. If you want to know about shift, you can visit Proficio's website, and do connect with Renuka in LinkedIn, so at Renuka Sena. Connect with her. She will help you in whichever ever capacity she can.
Yeah.
And we hope to hear more stories about great local business from you as well in the future, Renuka.
Thank you.
Um,
I do want to, if you don't
mm,
mind, Harith, I
sure,
do
sure.
want to put in another plug.
Mm,
So, apart from Proficio, I'm also the co founder and senior partner in a company called Scale Up Malaysia. And since we have a lot of entrepreneurs here that are listening in, we have actually opened our cohort for our next round of investments for 2022. We're looking for 10 great companies, and we will invest 100,000 USD for these companies, because what we're looking for is those companies that we can grow and scale and showcase as Malaysian companies. We are also open, of course, to those outside of Malaysia, but primarily it is Malaysia.
awesome, awesome. So two in one, guys. Go join Shift. Go join Scale Up Malaysia. So we are at the end of the show. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Renuka, for your time. Thank you again
Thank
for
you so
everyone that
much.
is viewing and listening. Have a green week ahead, and see you next week. Bye bye, guys.